Hey, what's up, everybody? My name's Steve. I'm a principal engineer in big tech and an open source contributor and enthusiast, and this is Linux, by the way. Today, we're going to be comparing AMD versus Intel and their mobile chipsets. I have the Framework 13 AMD edition, which is the 7840U with 64 gigs of DDR5 dual channel memory and a Western Digital 2TB NVMe drive. For Team Intel, we have the System76 Lemur Pro with the Intel Core Ultra 7 155U, 56 gigs of DDR5 memory that's sometimes dual channel, and a Samsung 990 NVMe drive that's 2 terabytes. We're going to go ahead and run a few different tests on these, including compiling, web browsing, and gaming, so that way you know how to choose between the chipsets and what the trade-offs are. Let's go ahead and get started. The 7840U goes up to a max boost of 5.1 gigahertz. It has 16 megabytes of cache. It runs at a base of 3.3 gigahertz, and it has 8 cores and 16 threads. The 7840U also supports DDR5 5600 memory, and it has the AMD Radeon 780M mobile processor with 12 graphics cores and 2700 megahertz. On the Intel side, we have the Core Ultra 7 155U, which has 12 cores, but they're split up between 2 performance cores, 8 efficiency cores, and 2 low power cores with 14 threads. The max turbo goes up to 4.8 gigahertz. There's a mix of different thresholds depending on which core it lands on. We also have 12 megabytes of cache and up to 57 watts TDP, whereas on the AMD it was actually up to 30 watts. In terms of graphics, we're using the integrated Intel graphics, which go up to 1.95 gigahertz. And the main feature, as I can tell from this, is that it does support a lot of different hardware video decoding and encoding, but it's not necessarily like a gaming powerhouse. Both laptops are plugged into power and on the balanced profile, and we're going to go ahead and run through the Web Speedometer 2.0 test and see the results. This is a pretty huge difference at this point. On the Intel laptop, we're landing at 226, and on the AMD laptop, we're at 312. The other difference is that the Intel laptop did have to start spinning the fans up to run the benchmark, whereas the AMD was totally silent at this point. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to see how their unplugged performance are. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to unplug both laptops and we'll run the test again. Both laptops are still in the balanced performance profile, but they are unplugged. That's a really big difference. We see Intel coming in at 143 and the AMD coming in at 285. So AMD has the lower power consumption, but it also has much higher performance. For the next set of tests, both laptops are plugged back in, they're on the balanced profile, and we're going to run Geekbench 6, which tests a number of different things from floating point performance to multi-core, and it should give us an aggregate score. You can see here in the system information that the integrated graphics do take away from the overall memory also. So if you're looking here, our AMD system, despite it 64 gigs, only shows 60.6. In terms of the scores, the processors are much more competitive in this test. So the AMD came in at 2,448, whereas the Intel processor came in at 2,226. When we get to the multi-core, it's a much different story. AMD is coming in at 12,771, whereas the Intel is only coming in at 7,754. This may be in part due to Intel's core setup. Because not all cores are created equal and it has the performance cores and the efficiency cores and the low power cores, it's really hard for a task scheduler to pick which one to put a task on, and it means that some of the workloads are going to go slower than others here. The next set of tests, we're going to run through a few popular games. So here we have Factorio, and we will pick Wave Defense, start round. And so we are at 59 and 60 FPS, and I'll try to run up somewhere with a little more going on so that we can see if the frames drop at all. So far, so good. We're looking real good. Holding a consistent 60 frames per second. And when I get to these aliens up here, we'll see if it slows down at all. And there's the aliens. And yeah, we're still holding 60. So this game is very playable on a laptop, even an Intel laptop for that matter. And it should have no problem holding that that frame rate. See here, it's definitely not going down. It's staying at the right level. Now let's see how AMD does. So we'll go to single player, new game. We'll go to wave defense, click play. All right, so we've done the same thing with AMD, and we'll go ahead and click start round. and we'll run around. And so we are at 60 FPS the whole time, playing very smooth. The laptop fans aren't going wild or anything. It's handling this very well. So yeah, Factorio is definitely a game that can be played on both of these laptops without any issue. Let's see what happens when we get to the aliens up here. There we go. And still 60, holding that no problem. Try and find some more aliens real quick. There's some more aliens. Yep, we're holding 60. So good job, AMD, on that one. For the next one, we're going to go ahead and try Valheim. I've set this to 1920 by 1080 in full screen mode on very low graphics, and we'll see how that does. For the Intel system, the fans are definitely going at full blast right now. I can hear it, and I don't know if you can hear it through the mic at all, but it's pretty loud. Valheim is loaded up, and the graphics are in very low. So while it might not look the best, it is playing at a consistent 60 FPS or so, even on a laptop. That's pretty cool. We have the AMD system loaded up. A couple notes here is that the FPS are not actually displaying, so I can't tell you how fast it's going. Visually, it looks just as smooth as the Intel, but it is a little odd. So the two things that are different with this one is that the music is still coming out of my laptop, even though I chose to have the output be HDMI, and there's no FPS counter. So I'm not sure why those two bugs exist since both systems are totally identical, and I formatted them both this morning, so they had nothing else on them except Steam and these games. So there shouldn't be too much variance there. I don't know why that would happen to just AMD and not the Intel system. For the next test, we want to simulate a developer workflow. So I have BAT, which is like cat, but written in Rust. And we'll copy that. And what we're going to try and do is build this locally and then time that. What we're going to do to benchmark this is we're just going to run time cargo build, and we'll do this on both systems. And the results are in. So on the Intel side, we have almost 22 seconds. And on the AMD side, we have a little over 16 seconds. So the AMD is definitely faster here, but both laptops are well suited for building projects such as Rust or any of the complex compiler type packages. In terms of Intel and AMD, this is a little bit of a toss up. So Intel was clearly slightly slower on many of the tests than AMD. It used a little more power, which required more cooling and more fans. But AMD also had a little bit of oddities with this Steam game and not showing the FPS counter and not letting me actually output the sound through HDMI. In terms of the driver support, we may be able to chalk this up to Intel having pretty solid open source drivers that are very compatible, well tested, and they just have decades of experience there. AMD's drivers are relatively newer. They weren't always open source, and they sort of have a reputation. And so those drivers could come into play in terms of the bugs in the hardware and the software level there. In terms of which one I'd recommend, you really can't go wrong with either. I was surprised by Intel's score on battery for the web benchmarks. That was a lot slower than I thought. It's still a lot faster than previous generations, but the AMD really blew it out of the water. So if web performance is really important to you, especially on battery, you can't go wrong with the AMD. But Intel showed a solid stability on the Steam gaming side, and it did run all the games at 60 FPS. I really don't think there is a clear winner here. It's more about trade-offs and what you're coming from. If you're coming from a laptop that's 5 years older, you're going to be very happy with either one. I do think that Intel having so many different cores with the low power and the efficiency in their performance cores, I don't think that the scheduler can really handle that well. And so I'd prefer to have all the cores just be the same so that Linux can work with those a little easier. In terms of which laptop I'd recommend, I think both laptops performed very well. Considering they're Ultrabooks, they're super lightweight, they don't have like huge fans on them or anything, they were both able to play the games at 60 FPS, which I didn't even expect. Now, in terms of stability, we did see some oddities with the AMD drivers there, not outputting the audio to the HDMI and not showing the FPS. That's kind of showing the differences of drivers and the maturity. Intel has had open source drivers for decades now, and they've put a lot of effort into those, and they're very stable and well supported. AMD has been trying to work on the drivers, but we have seen various cases where the support just isn't there, including people like GeoHot, who's been working on the TinyGrad framework for ML. He's trying to put a bunch of AMD cards in a box, and we see that sometimes those tests crash where the NVIDIA ones don't. So there is a reason to believe that the graphics drivers aren't exactly mature yet on the AMD side. In terms of which one you should buy, well, the manufacturers, System76 and Framework, they sell both AMD and Intel models, so you can pick and choose however you see fit. I do like AMD's power efficiency, and I like that they have a low fan curve and they have great graphics performance. But I like that Intel kind of works with everything, and you don't have to worry about any weird crashes or Steam games not working exactly the way you want it, but it really depends on your workload. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll talk to you soon.